Good day, ladies and gentlemen. They say there are two ways to look at a barren rock. A 19th century British official looked at Hong Kong in 1841 and famously called it a barren island with hardly a house upon it. He saw a dead end. But a few decades later, the world looked at the same rock and called it a miracle. It reminds me of the old story that about the shoe company that sent two salesmen to a remote island to scout the market. The first salesman sent a telegram back, cancel the order, total disaster, nobody here wears shoes. The second salesman sent a telegram an hour later, triple the order, absolute gold mine, nobody here wears shoes yet. That is the essence of Hong Kong story. It's not just a lesson in economics, it's a lesson in the optics of opportunity. We are often told that the miracle was built on what Hong Kong had, its harbor or its location. But today, I want to suggest that the miracle was actually built on what people chose to see when they had absolutely nothing at all. And we dive into this. Remember, the brain is a funny thing. It starts working the second you were born and only stops when you stand up to give a speech or when you decide that a barren rock is just a rock. So, to start with, in my series of storytelling today on the miracle of Hong Kong, it was the 26th of June 1843 when the British Empire formally laid claim to a tiny island off the southern coast of China, Hong Kong. At that time, it was no more than a sleepy backwater, a scattering of humble villages and fishing hamlets kissed by the South China Sea. The winds carried no hint of the destiny that awaited it. 2 years earlier, Queen Victoria had written to her uncle, King Leopold of Belgium, her tone half amused, half proud. Albert is so amused at my having got the island of Hong Kong. For the mighty empire on which the sun never set, Hong Kong was barely a speck on the map, a rocky outpost, insignificant and obscure, and yet time would weave its quiet magic. The same island, once mocked as a barren possession, would one day rise to become the world's freest economy, a beacon of global finance and a model of indomitable human spirit. Today, services contribute nearly 90% of its GDP, and by 2018, its stock exchange stood proudly among the top in the world. What changed this? Who breathed life into this once forgotten isle? When the British took control, they saw in Hong Kong not what it was, but what it could become. They shaped it into a gateway of trade, a gleaming port that bridged the British Empire with China and the Far East. Ships laden with silk, tea, and opium crossed its harbors, and its docks echoed with the sound of opportunity. But as with all stories of greatness, fate would test its spirit. In 1937, as the dark clouds of war gathered, Japan invaded China and soon extended its grip to Hong Kong. The island, once bustling with trade, was thrown into chaos. The Pearl Harbor attack of 7th December 1941 brought the Second World War roaring into the Pacific. Within days, the British garrison surrendered and Hong Kong fell under the Japanese occupation. For nearly 4 years, the city bled. Thousands of men, women, and children were ruthlessly massacred. The hum of commerce was silenced, the port lay dead, and hunger shadowed every alley. Yet, even amid the ashes, a faint ember of resilience smoldered. When Japan surrendered after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombing, Hong Kong began to rise again, scarred but unbroken. Its people, like the phoenix, gathered courage from despair, but soon came another storm of 1949, the year when the communists seized power in China. Once more, Hong Kong's fragile freedom trembled. Refugees began to pour in wave and wave. Desperate souls fleeing persecution, hunger, and fear. Within 2 years, the island's population doubled. For every two locals, one newcomer arrived, bringing with them stories of loss and hope in equal measure. The island, already poor in natural blessings, now stood on the edge of collapse. It had no minerals to mine, no oil to drill, no farmland to till, and now even enough fresh water to drink. To make matters worse, the Korean War erupted in 1950. Communist China sided with North Korea, and the West retaliated with economic sanctions. Trade with Europe and America, Hong Kong's lifeline snapped overnight. The city, very young city, stood at the crossroads. The administration could have chosen to seal its borders, to curb immigration, to suppress unrest with an iron hand. But the spirit of Hong Kong, forged through fire and adversity, chose otherwise. They decided not to view the crisis as a curse, but as an opportunity in disguise. And that shift in perception changed everything. Shipyards began to salvage wrecked vessels from the Korean War, tearing them apart for steel that would rebuild the island's skeleton and fuel its trade. Entrepreneurs with vision turned their gaze westwards, importing machinery and investing in textile industries. Employing the same refugees who had once arrived as a burden, need became invention. Scarcity gave birth to creativity. And from hardship, Hong Kong's identity as a vibrant economic powerhouse was born. So, what truly caused this miracle? The answer lies not in the soil nor in the sea, but in the human eye. In the way people choose to see their circumstances, in the realm of quantum physics, there is a concept known as observer effect. It tells us that the mere act of observation changes the phenomena being observed. To see an object, one must cast light upon it, and that light itself alters what is seen. It is a gentle reminder that a perspective shapes our reality. Hong Kong's rise was not a product of chance. It was a result of a collective shift in perspective. Where others saw ruin, they saw renewal. Where others saw overpopulation, they saw manpower. Where others saw isolation, they saw independence. In life too, our outcomes are determined not just by what happens to us, but by how we choose to see what happens. When we change our lens, when we tilt our gaze ever so lightly, new paths, new solutions, new miracles appear. Hong Kong teaches us that the world transforms when we do. That every dark night hides the promise of dawn. If only we dare to look differently. That limitations are but the boundaries of our imagination. And that sometimes the smallest island on the map can hold the grandest lessons in the book of life. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.